always a scary bit.
The guy who's meant to let us into the school we're operating in is not here.
I will start with the good news. My pump arrived! Good morning. So we're going to replace this keel rope because, as you can see, it's not so ideal when you can literally just pull ropes apart like that. And this is the rope that holds the keel down. So this is the one that holds it up, which is still in good condition, but this one also helps hold it in place and stops it banging around when you're sailing. So yeah, we'll do that today because it's completely exposed the interior of the rope, which also is in great condition. I need to figure out how to get this out. So it's not super easy to see down in there, but that right there is the knot. And then you can see that the rope comes up here through these rollers and then up here, which then heads outside the boat where I can raise and lower the keel.
This is why my jobs always take a long time, because I've been invited to go to the beach for lunch with Will and Lena and the gang, so I can't refuse. I better go for a swim and lunch, and then I'll come back and do the keel.
Captain Lena, woo! Alrighty, I've been for a swim, back to work. Just trying to undo the knot down in here. It's actually undoing relatively easily. You can already see I've undone a part of it. I don't know if you can see that very well. We've got this little safety rope here just because I'm paranoid, and I'll keep going. This is where having little hands can come in handy sometimes. Alright, old rope is untied. Just got to thread this one through this little pulley system here and then tie it on. Alright, got it through the pulley. Now for the knot. Get some of these other ropes out of the way. This is really hard tying a knot in here. I got a bowline in there. I couldn't really tie any others very successfully down there. I'm just going to make the tail of my bowline a little longer to make sure she stays in, but shouldn't come undone. This is always a scary bit. These have been spliced together with electrical tape, a very strong bond, as I'm sure you know. And now I just got to try and pull it through and hope that I can get all the rope through without losing it. This bit's always super nerve-wracking. Anyway, let's give it a shot. I got it. Yay. Got it. It is actually the same size diameter rope as the last one. It just took a little getting through. We did it! Got a little end knot tied. She runs in and then down. I put the plate back on. The keel rope was super successful. How unusual for a boat job to go smoothly from start to finish, even with me stopping and having lunch and a swim in between. So yeah, yay! Another boat job ticked off the list. Sailing soon, I hope. Alright, well, in true Costa Rican style, I've been trying to order this part for a while. The little freshwater pump for here.
Basically, the American company I'm ordering through took a very long time to get back to me between contact. So it took like a week to just get the part ordered. Then Myanmar accidentally only sent half the parts to them, so they then had to recontact Myanmar and wait for more parts to come. So basically it's just all taken a long time, and the parts have finally been shipped from America, but the reality is it takes 4 to 7 days to get here to Costa Rica, which is normally more like 2 weeks. So I'm starting to get really worried that I'm not going to be able to take Will and Lena sailing, which sucks. But anyway, I have gotten used to the slow workings of things around here, and luckily we've had a lot of fun anyway. They came to Pavona's for a few days with me, and we've done some other fun things, so it's all good. But I think today we might look at putting the rest of the engine back together, minus that pump.
Will was back on board and helped install the alternator, in particular getting the electrical connections correct. Okay, first step is doing some cleaning. So at first I'm just going to give it a really good scrub with some liquid dishwashing detergent and fresh water. Then I've got some degreaser I'm going to use to give it a kind of degreasing clean. And finally I'm going to give some areas a light sand, particularly areas like here where the fresh water pump's going to sit again. That's actually quite rusty, and we want all those connections to be really nice and smooth. So yeah, cleaning time. So that's just with a vacuum and scrub with detergent, not even used the degreaser yet, and it looks quite a lot different already, I think. Just going to give it a bit of a degrease. Surprisingly, the water got a lot of the grease off, but yeah, I'm just going to use a bit of this to just make it a little cleaner. Then I'll just sand and we'll be well on our way, which will be cool. Alright, shoe's been sanded, and I also happened to find Myanmar anti-corrosion grey paint for the engine. So I'm gonna just do a little bit of taping and kind of spot paint some of the really bad rust areas to try and protect her a little more too. Janet is the shiniest engine.
Good morning. I just rode to shore. I had to unpack the dinghy a little bit, make sure my oarlocks don't go missing. Yeah, and I'm ready for the campaign in the mountains of the indigenous community. I'm really excited to get up there. It's 6:30. I'm catching the 6:30 bus, so it's actually a bit earlier than that. And yeah, meeting them in Ciudad, which is an hour bus ride away. Then I think we've got about an hour to get into the mountains, and then yeah, we'll start the campaign. Woo! Alright, we made it to the indigenous community, but there seems to be some confusion. The guy who's meant to let us into the school we're operating in is not here, and yeah, we got all this stuff ready for the campaign, so we'll see what happens. Oh, it's pretty up here though.
Thankfully, a local family donated their patio, power and water for us to begin the clinic. They then sent out all the kids to spread the word the vets were here.
You're making it very difficult to film. Yeah.
The clinic began slowly. I was working pre-op, weighing patients, administering anaesthetic and performing the sterile preparation for surgery.
Tiene mucho bulbos. Oh, you got a pato también. Look at the size of that tick. That's my thumbnail. The word is spreading And more doggies are coming. Brought kittens in bags. Oh. All the patients went home with medication for after surgery, but we were also able to provide 3 bags of food to every single dog and cat that had surgery as well. This dog has torsillosis, where you get the little fly larvae laying eggs under the skin. So that's where the larvae entered, and it's sitting here under his skin and will hatch as little flies. We'll get the ones out that we can, and then he'll get an injection to kill the rest. This is quite possibly the most fun a veterinarian can have. I went a little crazy getting them out. Look at them. So much fun. You, huh? You recovered well from your surgery. Hey? You're back to normal. Little sleepy perhaps. Yes. Final surgery and we're packing up. We've done about 40 animals. So I just got back from the spay and neuter campaign. It was so good to go out to the indigenous communities again. It's a different community to what I visited last year. These guys are further into the mountains inland, but yeah, it was really special. They were really, really grateful to have us there. It was totally free, this one, so they didn't have to pay anything. It's generally not a very wealthy community, so you know, people really just kind of live off the land up there. And have fincas and farms and things like that. So yeah, they could bring their dogs to us. We were giving them parasite medication and doing all the spay and neutering for free. And yeah, we did 40 dogs in total, or 40 dogs and cats in total. And that was from 22 different families in the area. So probably most of the families within walking distance, because most of them only have horses. They either walk or have horses. That's it. So yeah, it was pretty cool to have such a big turnout, and I don't know, days like that always just make me feel really good. It's, you know, it's just so nice to help communities that need it. But now I'm super dirty. I'm having an afternoon cup of tea because I keep nearly falling asleep. So I left really early this morning. And yeah, I'm gonna have a really good sea shower followed by a freshwater rinse, because I think in total I pulled out like 12 of those weird little larvae things today, and you know, not to mention surgeries and animals and all the things that come with it, so I definitely need a good shower. But yes, I'm going to enjoy this cup of tea and then jump in the ocean. Good afternoon, Chuffed crew. I am here with good and bad news. I will start with the good news. My pump arrived! And it is the right type of pump, and it appears at this stage they have actually sent me every part that I requested. So I'm pretty sure we're doing okay in terms of getting out of here eventually. The downside, the negative, is that Will and Lena left this morning. They their flight leaves tomorrow, and the part was meant to arrive a few days ago with the idea that we could at least go sailing for a few days. Then it got delayed and delayed, and arrived today, the day they leave. So it's a bit sad because I really, really, really wanted to take them sailing, but you know, things happen. So, and I've kind of gotten used to it. I'm sure you guys have too. The amount of times I've said that next week I'm going sailing and then something happens. So I'm not saying it anymore, but in theory, I have all the parts I need to make the engine work. So we'll see. So today and tomorrow, I'm basically just installing everything back on the engine. As you saw in the video, Will did the alternator for me because that was the main part that I was feeling a little bit insecure about doing, just because it has a lot of electrical connections. The rest, I think I will do okay with. Will has sat down and given me some instructions, and yeah, we'll go from there. You may see Will and Lena again, but for now, they're back in Germany. So we'll get stuck into this stuff. I'm tackling the saltwater pump first because it's something I actually know how to do, but I am replacing the belt at the same time. As you may remember, if you put this on first, it's actually very difficult to then put the bolts on, if not impossible. So you got to do your bolts first. Now we can put this little part on. And now, by far the funnest part, trying to hook this on with it all in place. We'll see how we go. Done it a few times, so you would think by now I would have it under control, but we shall see. Tighten this back up again. I just realized all you can see is probably my bum, but I got it on by loosening this pulley a little bit and then going from there. So I'll just tighten this up a bit. So yeah, belt's on. I'm just going to put this little bolt on, not too tight though. And as some of you may already know, let's see if I can show you down here. All right, I can see what you're seeing. So this here has to end up on this bolt, and that's what you tighten, like I was saying, to tighten this belt. Now what I find easiest is to put this on now, just very loosely, so it's at least in place. Because once you put pressure and try and tighten this and have one hand to do this and try and see the belt and all this, it's very difficult. So much easier to do this first. Got my wrench here all ready to go to help put some pressure here. Push it down where it needs to go. Basically I try and hold it with my knee while screwing this on. Just going to attach these paps here. Alrighty, saltwater pump is in and connected. So next step, alternators in place, saltwater pumps in place. We've got to put the belt on here, and finally the water pump, and all systems will be a go. As you guys know, life works in mysterious ways. I've had a good night's sleep, eaten breakfast, and had some caffeine, so I'm ready to tackle the freshwater pump. It was kind of funny because this arrived 12 p.m. yesterday and Will and Lena left at 8 a.m. yesterday. So typical of, you know, life on board. Things just don't go quite the way I plan. So I keep trying to tell myself it's happened for a reason. I had to put the saltwater pump on myself and figure this out. Maybe it's just something I've got to do by, you know, myself, and that way I know exactly how to do it. Problem with the with the freshwater cooling pump is there's not quite as much information online as there is for rebuilding the raw water pump. So I'll probably do a separate little special video that really goes into a lot of detail about what I did here. Otherwise though, I'm going to kind of breeze through it a bit so it's not like a 40-minute video of me trying to figure this out. So, but this is really useful. This is the Yanmar parts catalog, and it actually breaks down all the parts. So this is how I ordered the pump, because that means I didn't forget anything, but it's also useful for putting it back together, I hope. So yes, we'll get going and see how we go. You'll notice that each of these has the number of the part written on them, which then corresponds with the numbers here, which I can then match with the numbers here to make sure I put it all together properly. I would also like to point out I got surfboards, paperwork thrown around the place, and coolant and boxes and just stuff literally everywhere. So basically I've got a combination of old parts and new parts. I didn't order every single part new, mainly because some of my parts were still in okay condition. I'm going to begin by basically putting all these smaller screws and attachments in, and then basically go from there. So these two parts are my thermostat and the thermostat switch. This has 71 degrees Celsius written on it, which I assume is the temperature at which it shuts the engine off and starts beeping at me. So I've got a electrical connection attached back there in the engine that slots onto here, and this little fellow goes in to his little home here. Not a bearing, a gasket. I need to put a little gasket in there. It's gasket 21. Where are you, gasket 21? 44950. 44950. Here he is. Alright. So now we've got the thermostat with his little gasket. And looking at the pump, it's going to pop in here on this side. You know, I do have a pair of scissors somewhere here, and I should probably use it instead of continually busting my teeth up all the time. Maybe I use this. So I kept the old housing of the thermostat unit because it was actually in good condition. I might just give it a little sand around the edges here just to get it nice and clean, and then we can pop it on. So this housing unit just sits on top like so and joins on with the little, you can see this creates a nice seal. Voila. And I am using a teeny bit of leak tight on all these guys to try and make it a little easier when they have to come out the next time, which hopefully I won't be doing, but you know, just in case. Pretty much the final part of the process. Oh, my little washers are stuck anyway. Is to put this little fellow back on. So, like I said, my old spacer and my old, gotta line the holes up, and my old pulley, voila. And there is totally, I don't know if you guys remember when the old pump was mounted and this, we could just be like wiggle, 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 wiggle. You can see now it's solid. It's not wiggling, which is a good thing. You guys can see me a bit. We're on to the final step. So this is all together, and then basically put my gasket on. And I do have a small amount of gasket maker, and although in theory this actual gasket it comes with should be enough, Will recommended that I look at putting just a little gasket sealer around the edges as well, just to I guess extra safety. So basically I'll be putting a little bit of this around the edge of here, as well as around this little tube which inserts into this hole here. So yes, we'll get going. There we go. Yes, that's a bit more out of the way of everything. Away from moving parts. Alright, so now I've got to connect hoses and make this belt tight, and we are pretty much on our way. My next step is tightening this belt, which involves pushing the alternator far away while doing up the bolt on the alternator to hold it in place. And essentially by moving it further this way, we're tightening the belt because these two are fixed. This belt's nice and tight still, so we'll see if we can wedge Mr. Alternator away. Okay. So this belt here,
this fellow, which I've just tightened by pushing the alternator across here and tightening this bolt. It can actually have a deflection of, I think it's 8 to 10 millimeters. So you can see when I push on that, that's still pretty tight. So that should be okay. All the parts are on. Now I just need to fill here and here with some coolant and then run the engine. There is coolant. Final step. Connecting the starter to the batteries. Flick the switch and see if she runs.
I had a friend on board to watch the outside of the boat to ensure a good salt water flow was coming.
Oh, the moment of truth.
Wow, it's nice up here.
Wait. Oh, did you see any water that time? All right, I'll try starter again. She clunked out.
But yeah, water did come out.
Okay. Hey, I think she's going.
It also meant I had 2 people to try put the belt back on the second time.
Of water, and then that time nothing.
My belt's come loose. Alright, it's the next day. I took a break, but you can see this is really loose because the bolt under here slipped and allowed the raw water pump to move closer to the pulley system. But when I put this on, this belt's actually a titch bigger than the one that was on it before because I couldn't, for the life of me, get it to move over tight enough. And now, as you can see, it's super loose. So I'm going to have to take the alternator and loosen it again, take off this belt so that I can put a new belt on here that's tighter, then push it across again and tighten it. All right, things are getting frustrating with Janet, as always. I had a 19-inch belt on and I just switched it. Well, no, I had the 20-inch on first, then you saw me switch it for the 19. Couldn't push it far enough across to get the 19 done up, so I put the 20 back on. And now it's still super loose. So I think I'm going to have to take the hoses off again to try and get it going. So just a little more work. This is becoming increasingly frustrating. It's the exact same belt that I took off. I mean, it's a different belt, but it's the same brand, same length, same numbers. And I cannot get this anywhere near to do up. And then I put the 20-inch on, and it's so loose that it can't spin the thing properly. Every time I think I'm kind of getting somewhere with this bloody engine, something seems to just not quite go right again. That's all I can do. Good morning. I'm feeling a little better this morning after a good night's sleep, but it's just so frustrating every time I feel like I'm getting somewhere and you know,
going to be moving again. Something just doesn't go to plan. But all I can do is keep trying. And all in all, a belt being too tight is not, you know, should be able to figure it out. Whether it needs a bigger belt or I just need to do some readjusting. It should all go to plan eventually. Yeah, I guess there's a few more things on my mind than just the engine, and that kind of overwhelmed me a bit yesterday. I'm, as some of you may have seen, Chuffed is up for sale. I'm not definitely selling her. Depends on a lot of things, but mostly, like I said last episode, I'm having to put the boat completely in my name. I have to buy out Joel, and that is just a big cost. And then to get to Mexico and do the repairs I would really like to do, and with all the repairs that I've already had to do with the shaft seal and this new pump and different things like that, it's just been a very costly exercise. And so it just really depends on how finances go as I start moving as to whether I can afford to keep going, I guess. But at this stage, I think I've kind of figured it out, so it should be okay. But, you know, it's when the engine's not going right and the boat's not moving, it just feels like a very big decision to put so much money into a girl that is going nowhere. But I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that, like I say every episode, next episode, hopefully I'll be sailing. We'll see. Anyway, hope you guys are having a good week, and hopefully if you're not, you can be like me and just keep on keeping on. It will get better, I know it will. Anyway, hope you all stay chuffed, everybody. Until next time.